In the early mornings of Washington State, up near the mountains in a place called Valley, students are arriving to begin a day at Paideia High School. As of 2009, this high school didn't even exist. As a matter of fact, there was no high school to speak of in Valley. A K-8 middle school was the only public education Valley had, aside from Columbia Virtual Academy, the local online homeschooling program. My name is Travis Burks. I am a student at this school. Today, this high school has been brought to the attention of everyone around. Most people haven't even heard of it. However, many people are curious as to why this high school suddenly exists. Why is it here? What is it for? And most importantly, what makes this high school so much different from other schools? I have attended Paideia since it opened in 2010. I am now a senior, ready to graduate and take on the world. I wanted to know everything about this school, so I took on an investigation and started at the beginning.
I'm Mark Selly. I'm the superintendent of the Valley School District.
To get the answers I needed, I went straight to the source. Mark Sully, or Dr. Sully as he prefers to be called, is the founder of Paideia High School. In 2010, he applied at the state level to start a high school in Valley, where there wasn't one.
I've been interested in the works of Mortimer Adler, who is a philosopher, but he did a lot of work on education, and in the 1980s he suggested a national education reform movement, and the group that he worked with named their committee the Paideia proposal after the Greek word paidos, which means the upbringing of a child.
Adler's biography says that even he himself wasn't sure where that name came about, but the meaning behind it meant a great deal to him. Throughout his years as a philosopher, he wrote many books, each pertaining on ways of education. The three books that focused around Paideia initially were The Paideia Proposal, Paideia Problems and Possibilities, The Paideia Program, and Reforming Education, each having their own take on the proposal, but still associating with the main idea of the school. Being a great philosopher, delving deep into the thoughts about virtue, truth, God, knowledge, and matters of conduct fascinated him, and he continued to do this all his life, till he died in 2001.
The reason I went to Adler is we were looking for an innovative way to do education in order to comply with engrossed substitute House Bill 2913, which was the legislation that allowed innovative high schools to form, and that was the birth of Paideia High School. So in short, how did I look for Paideia? The legislature passed engrossed substitute House Bill 2913. We were looking for an innovative way to implement that bill, and we looked to Mortimer Adler's works with the Paideia program in order to fulfill that.
As I said before, the main concept for Paideia was focused mainly around these four books. Adler goes into detail on furthering education through means of using what is known as the Paideia philosophy. The Paideia philosophy is centered around a three-column educational instructional model. Column 1, didactic, that's where the teacher stands up and directs the lesson, giving details on the concepts, whether it be language arts, science, math, music, etc. Column 2, coaching, that's where students are given tasks, reports, labs, and the teachers monitor their progress and help them with questions that they might have. Column 3, the seminar instructional model. This is where students have a reading that's fairly difficult, and they work through it to gain a greater understanding of that reading. And then they have a discussion about it with the idea that there is a verbal response requirement from each student. These three columns put together construct Adler's philosophy for Paideia. Its idea strives to provide the best education for all, meeting the many needs of any student. According to Adler, his definition for education is an art that embraces each of the three different types of art: the liberal arts, the useful arts, and the fine arts. The liberal arts have to do with grammar, logic, rhetoric, arithmetic, music, geometry, and astronomy. The grammar, logic, and rhetoric, or for short, the trivium, are what we call the language arts of speaking, reading, writing, and reasoning. Arithmetic, music, geometry, and astronomy, or the quadrivium, are what we call the scientific arts of observing, estimating, measuring, experimenting, calculating, and problem solving. The useful arts have to do with farming, healing, and teaching. These have to deal with medicine, growing, and the educative practice of the other arts to further the knowledge of others. Finally, the fine arts are those in which the work is not a means, but an end. Latin is considered a fine art, as well as music and paintings. It's meant for the appreciation and enjoyment of others. All these arts form together to define education. We can know how to use all the tools with the trivium and the quadrivium arts in everyday life. We will be able to work with nature to produce something useful beyond what would result from nature alone. And we can appreciate beauty as an end in itself. All of this is what education is all about, and what Adler wanted us all to gain. With the Paideia philosophy in place, it was time for it to be brought to life. Construction workers, local or otherwise, were able to build 5 portables over the summer of 2010 and 11, each with their own designation for a different subject in school, like a science building, a language arts building, a fine arts building, and 2 others. One for the staff, the other, lunchroom for the students.
It's well funded because through the legislation that created it, it's funded according to what's called the small high formula, which basically allows enough funding to develop a full comprehensive high school even if there are only a few students. All of the staff that we hired applied. Some of the staff were already employed by the district and they applied basically for a transfer so that they could be part of the new school. Other staff were not part of the district and they simply responded to employment inquiries. I think that the biggest challenge with the staff is staff development and staff training. We have a unique model of education that not everyone is accustomed to. And even though the Paideia philosophy was well laid out in the works of Mortimer Adler, there weren't a lot of models that we could look to for the daily practice. For example, one huge challenge is how do you set up a schedule to accommodate the unique kinds of educational approaches advocated in Paideia. Kind of corollary to that challenge is when you need to fit some of the regular mold that the state requires, how do you do things innovatively and uniquely? You're constantly have to compromise back and forth between the philosophy of education you're trying to implement and the requirements of the state. We've got a fantastic staff, I think.
2 other people instrumental in starting this school were Angela Jackson Sully and Lauren Gilson. Lauren was one of the many people who brought the philosophy to life along with Dr. Sully and was principal for the first 2 years of Paideia. Unfortunately, due to a statewide reduction in force, Lauren Gilson left his post as principal of the school in 2012. Thankfully, science teacher Matt Cox gladly took that position. Angela Jackson Sully continues to work there as a language arts teacher. With the Paideia philosophy, housing, and staff all in place, the makings of a great high school were almost complete. All that was left was the students. Parents from all around heard about this new philosophy in education and signed up their kids to attend the school. On August 31st, 2010, Paideia High School began. A total of 18 teens attended the school. 8 staff members were hard at work, teaching, coaching, and using Mortimer Adler's philosophy to implement this new way of education. To reach Paideia, students can ride a bus, or use some other form of transportation, and they must have the essentials needed to do schoolwork, such as pencils and paper. Every day, students go to their designated classroom and sit down, ready to listen to the daily lesson given by a staff member for a specific subject in class. Math, science, language arts, music, and other subjects are courses that all students are required to take. After the lesson is given, coaching begins. All students will be given a worksheet, a lab, or an essay assignment on what they learned, and teachers will wander the classroom and make sure the students who are struggling get the help that they need.
I think the key aspect of Paideia that is unique and isn't found really in much of any form in public education traditionally is the seminar. And so it's also an educational form that is not familiar to teachers, so we knew we would have to do lots of staff in service to help teachers learn how to teach this way.
Of course, lunch is provided, as well as small breaks for the students to stretch, relax, and socialize. All in all, a full day at Paideia is well worth it in the end.
It's deeply satisfying to choose an innovation and then see that innovation come to life. And there's just probably the deepest professional satisfaction I've ever experienced in seeing the Paideia philosophy come to life in Paideia High School. It's everything that I'd hoped for and more.
In short, Mortimer J. Adler had a vision to provide the best education for any student. It was to test and strengthen the mind, yet be diverse and flexible so as to meet the many needs of any student. Dr. Sully saw this vision and brought it to life with the help of other staff members who shared his vision. The Paideia philosophy is a new way to distribute education among students. With the 3 educational columns Adler put together, this new way of teaching will test and strengthen all their minds. Education is an art and should be treated as such. It is a cooperative art involving the lifelong formation of a person's intellect and will for the betterment of the person and society. Now, considering the students at Paideia, they have become, in some ways, like a family. With the school being tight-knit as it is, it's hard not to get to know your fellow classmate.
We've got great students. They're normal students who get in trouble sometimes, and most of the time are just growing and learning, and that's what we're here to do. We need to learn to get along together and work out our differences with others, and I think this small, close-knit environment helps to do that.
New faces continue to expand the school, and more are sure to come. The school continues to grow in size, stature, and new ways to amplify the teaching techniques of Mortimer Adler. With an amazing philosophy in place, great people, and above all, a family, Paideia High School has a future in education that goes beyond that of any other school. So, any final words you want to say?
Yes, I absolutely love you, students, and I love Paideia High School and the whole staff. I'm glad that you're still doing well and wish that I could be more a part of it as I was in the first year and a half of the program.